Hello and welcome to the Bulletin with UBS on Monocle Radio. Each week, the sharpest minds and freshest thinkers in finance take you beyond the numbers and hype, right to the heart of the big issues of the day. This week, we're discussing another compelling piece of research from the CIO of UBS Global Wealth Management. This week's report is the UBS Alpine Property Focus 2025, which is subtitled In Demand but Expensive. The report once again confers the title of the market with the most expensive holiday homes in the entire Alpine region. Across Europe, prices for Alpine holiday homes rose by 2.3% over the past 4 quarters. This year, it's expected that prices will continue their upward climb, but at a slower pace. Here to discuss the findings is Maciej Skoczek, Senior Real Estate Economist in the CIO of UBS Global Wealth Management. He's also the lead author of the Alpine Property Focus. Maciej, welcome to the programme, and perhaps you could start off by telling us a bit about what this report does, what it's for. It charts the price levels for second homes across the Alpine region, correct?
Well, yeah, this report is exactly about, the investment that you make only one time in your life. And that's probably one of the most important investments you do, buying something for your soul, buying something for your heart. So buying a vacation home. Huh? And we are talking here about the Alpine region, so about properties in the Alps. We cover markets like Switzerland, France, Austria, and Italy. So the key markets for the Alpine vacation homes. Yeah, we started this publication in 2017. And back then, the demand for vacation homes was not so strong. And it has all changed with the pandemics. We see strong demand growth, strong price growth, and that's why we want to shed a bit of light on this segment.
Let's talk a little bit about price levels then, and it seems a bit glib, but I'll ask you, who came out on top this time? You mentioned some of the markets, and even within those, it's always kind of competitive, I guess, in a way, to see where the price levels are highest. Who was top of the tree this time, Maciej?
Yeah, this time top of the tree or top of the mountain was Engadin St. Moritz, so a Swiss destination. There we see price level starting from 22,300 Swiss francs per square meter, would be like 24,000 euros per square meter. This is a bit higher than it was last year. And in second place is also another Swiss destination, Verbier, with a very similar price level of 22,100 Swiss francs at least.
And let's talk a little bit then about the trends behind those numbers. I guess, again, to sort of summarise a little crudely, what's happening? Prices there have continued to grow, and you mentioned that sort of pandemic acceleration, but the growth trajectory is slightly kind of slowed down. Tell us a little bit about what this specific report, this year's edition, tells us.
Yeah, this year's edition tells us that prices in the vacation home market in the Alps have been increasing. They increased last year by 2.3% on average of the top destinations, of the prime destinations in Europe. And this number is lower than it was in the past, but it's still positive. So we still see a robust demand for vacation homes, but we see also that the prices are reaching a level where they cannot increase anymore, or they cannot increase that fast as they did in the last years.
Well, let's just quickly go back. So before we talk about what might be muting things a little, just remind us, and you said the pandemic, obviously we know about people's desire to get up into the clean air of the Alps and so on. But what were the things that were driving that post-2020 surge before we talk about what's maybe dampening things a little?
Yeah, I mean, in 2020 or 2021, the main drivers were travel restrictions, closed leisure facilities in cities, hybrid work models. Everybody wanted just to go out of the cities. Cities were boring back then. So doing home office from the mountains was much more fun. And also we had back then very low interest rates, so very low financing costs. We had strong equity markets in general, and this was supporting the willingness to pay for luxury goods such as holiday homes. And this was also the case in 2022, 2023. And in 2023, the demand weakened a bit because of higher interest rates, but it still remained, robust. The main key word here will be home office.
Well, yeah, and so let's talk a bit about this dampening. You've alluded to it there pretty explicitly, actually. Higher financing costs, we know about that. That's maybe the key thing, but is it this classic thing, Maciej, where there's a few factors swirling around that have put a bit of a dampener on things?
Sure. I mean, that's not only one factor impacting here the price growth. I mean, for sure, higher financing costs. You can imagine this example from Switzerland. In 2021 and 2022, you could finance your mortgage at 1%. And 2 years later, it was 2.5 or 3% even, so 3 times higher. Higher usage costs, less people want to buy, they're not sure where we are heading to, so lower demand. So this is one thing for sure. The other thing is just, the price level. I mean, buying something for 22,000 Swiss francs, like we have it in St. Moritz, at least 22,000 Swiss francs, it's expensive. Not everybody can afford it. So with high prices, the number of potential buyers is going down.
In terms of what's shaping demand then, is that the critical thing? Are there other factors at play? And how do you go about gauging that when you're working on a report? I guess you have to do a mix. Is it of sort of qualitative and quantitative type stuff?
Yes, of course. I mean, the first thing that we do is we just look at the prices. We try to find the best mix of prices. I mean, there's not one source. You not always see all the data. So we calculate the things, and then we need to look behind the numbers. What's going on? Why do we have this development? Why is, for example, now St. Moritz more expensive than Verbier? Last year, for example, it was just the opposite, although they are still very, very close. So there's a lot of technical work behind this report. We try to talk also to our experts, especially in Switzerland. We have a lot of experts where we can discuss, how the local market is going, how they feel the market, what they see in the market, and we just try to find the common sense in all those discussions.
Well, yeah, and I was going to ask you about that because there's a kind of companion piece, isn't there, as well, with more of a Swiss focus. I guess the assumption from the outside is, look, in times, especially at the moment, lots of, geopolitical volatility, this kind of thing, Maciej. Is it, one would imagine, a bit like with currency, volatility around the globe, good news for Swiss real estate? Is that a bit of an oversimplification, or is that actually a fair reflection?
It's actually a fair simplification, I would say. Swiss real estate is a safe haven asset. So a lot of buyers or a lot of people just want to buy it because of those turbulences. And we saw this development last year or also during the pandemic, where markets were tumbling a bit. You really didn't know where the markets are heading to. We saw an increasing number of international buyers coming to Switzerland because they appreciate the security and the safety and the kind of stability. One could say the kind of boring development in Switzerland, it's appreciated by a lot of people, especially if you have a lot of wealth, because it's safe here actually. The problem is, of course, what you already mentioned, is the currency. Swiss franc has appreciated strongly over the last years, making Swiss real estate from an international point of view a very expensive investment.
Yeah, and that's probably, I guess, the headline. If we break this down region by region, that's probably the headline from Switzerland. One thing that I wanted to quickly ask you about was about the regulatory picture within Switzerland and how that's shaping things. I guess that's more of an internal play, but just briefly tell us about that, because that's quite interesting.
Yes, sure. Yeah, it's changing actually, especially when we step down a bit, so take a step back and we think about Switzerland right now at the first home market, so not a vacation home. In general, in Switzerland, we have a very tight residential market. There is not enough flats, and regulations have become popular, to kind of support the construction of residential units. They're not always productive. They're quite often counterproductive, but nevertheless, we have a lot of regulation. And this regulation is also coming to this vacation home market, or may come to the vacation home market. I will not go into the details, but just to give you a brief idea, we are probably about to introduce a new tax on holiday homes. It might be the case there will be a popular vote, and if this popular vote is accepted, cantons will have the opportunity to introduce a second home tax. That's something that we do not have in Switzerland. We haven't had in Switzerland until now. Currently, we don't know how this tax can be. It will probably not be very high, but still it increases the usage costs. And another idea is also limiting the access of international investors to the Swiss market. And this could impact especially the prices in the luxury segment.
Let's have a quick zip around some of the other headlines. If we jump across into Italy, what does the report tell us about the picture in Italy, Maciej? Just maybe, I don't know, pick out one or two observations that you thought were most arresting there.
In Italy, we cover 5 destinations, and one of them is Cortina d'Ampezzo, which is the most expensive destination in the Italian Alps, with price level of about 12,000 Swiss francs, if we convert it into francs to make it comparable. And this is also the place where the next Olympic Winter Games will be held, one of the stages for Olympics. So the prices went up quite significantly there in Cortina. And we also believe that this price growth can continue this year before the Olympics. Afterwards, we might see the prices have exaggerated a bit. And let's see whether the price level that was achieved there is sustainable. Another observation from Italy is also that it was the weakest market over the last few years. Since the beginning of pandemics, prices have gone up only by 25% since 2020. So there is the exaggerations there are not that big on average. So there is still some potential for prices to go up.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, let's continue our little spin around. What about in France? No Winter Olympics. Well, they had these Summer Olympics, didn't they, last year? But what's the picture for the French alpine landscape?
What's very convincing about French alpine landscape is the destinations. I mean, a lot of them are at the very high altitudes. And high altitudes, when you think about climate change, destinations in high altitudes are in a good position. Actually, this is a very good advantage. They have a lot of snow. They have big ski areas. So prices also go up there. They increased by 30% over the last 5 years. So a very robust growth, strong international demand as well. France has not very strong regulations when it comes to international demand. So prices go up there as well.
And let's not forget Austria. What about Austria? What did we learn this year, Maciej?
Yeah, this year Austria is the only region when we recorded a negative price development. It was on average there was a correction of 3%. I would say that there are several reasons for this development. First, in 2021 and 2022, the market exaggerated for sure. I mean, the price growth was like 15% per year. This is not sustainable. So the price level was also not sustainable. Austrian economy and also German economy, which is very important for the Austrian holiday home market, are weak. And also the prospects are weak. So the potential buyers will not be benefiting from strong income growth. And at the end, the interest rates in Austria, they remain high, meaning the usage costs and the financing costs of holiday homes are high.
Now, one thing that I wanted to quickly ask you about was the little top destination section, which I was kind of poring over, Maciej, really interesting. Of course, the highest prices we look, it's pretty dominated by Swiss alpine destinations. One thing that struck me on the accessibility one, I think maybe did Andermatt just creep in? But anyone who's flown, like I'm in London, if you need to get to St. Moritz, it's not easy. France kind of comes out trumps, doesn't it, on the accessibility scorings? Mm-hmm.
Yes, I mean, especially for international clients, if you buy a property in the Alps, you really need to look at accessibility. If you fly in and land, for example, I don't know, in Geneva, or Zurich, then you really need to check how long you need to drive. I mean, if your location is 3-4 hours away, you will never go there for a weekend or very rarely. So you really need to look at those accessibility things. And this is very good actually in Switzerland. A lot of destinations in central Switzerland, for example, Andermatt or Davos, or also some destinations in the canton of Valais, like Verviers, they have good accessibility. You don't need to travel a lot. This is for sure nice, and this speaks for them.
And just a personal question. Do you have a personal favourite? I don't know how many of these are. You might be a skier, I don't know, or I don't know what other winter sports, a snowboarder, who knows? Do you have a personal favourite? Are you allowed to divulge that personal information to me?
I mean, of course, I can tell you I'm a skier and I ski a lot during winter months. But what I do is I always change. So I don't have a vacation home on my own. I always go to a different destination because I love this diversity. So sometimes I'm in Austria, sometimes in Italy, and quite often, of course, in Switzerland because I live here. France is a bit too far from me, but it's also one of my targets to go there. What I always appreciate is high altitude and good snow conditions. So those touristic destinations really fit me well.
Very diplomatically answered. Maciej Skoczek, thanks very much for being with us on the programme. And that does bring us to the end of this edition of The Bulletin with UBS on Monocle Radio. You can listen again and explore more more at the website monocle.com, or discover more and find out how UBS can help you at ubs.com. While you're there, search Alpine Property Focus to find more information and resources. This is The Bulletin with UBS on Monocle Radio. I'm Tom Edwards. Thanks for listening.